That afternoon, his assistant, Xavier Sheldon, came to the mansion to pack Jalen's things. Xavier also brought a gift for me, saying it was an anniversary present Jalen had asked him to prepare. It was an exquisite bracelet worth a few $100,000, but not the pink diamond bracelet I desired the most. I took the gift and thanked him softly. "Thank you. I'll head upstairs to pack his things. Is it okay?" Xavier pointed upstairs. I nodded. After a pause, I added, "Let me help you with that, Mr. Sheldon." Xavier did not refuse my offer to help. Instead, he even commented that I was probably more familiar with Jalen's stuff than him. In truth, all these years, I seldom touched Jalen's things, and I rarely entered his study and his room. When we married, he told me not to touch his things or go into his study and his room for no reason. I did not want to upset him, so I always remembered his instructions, and the cleaning was handled by the housekeeper. That was why he was able to get along with me for 3 years. Jalen did not have many things, merely some clothes and daily necessities. There were some work documents in the study, but he had taken those with him before this. It did not take long for us to finish packing. Xavier thanked me respectfully. "Thank you, Mrs. Luxley." I smiled bitterly and replied, "Your CEO and I have already divorced, so you need not call me that from now on." Xavier immediately changed his words. "In that case, thank you, Miss Summer. If there's nothing else, I'll make a move first." "Okay, goodbye, Mr. Sheldon." Although I was the one who told him to change the form of address, I felt very sad when I heard him immediately call me Miss Summer. My heart felt as if it was pierced by a sharp knife, and the pain was excruciating. In their eyes, I was probably just a woman occupying another's position. Sure enough, in the world of love, the one who was not loved was the mistress. I then wondered about this child who was not loved by his father. Should he not come into this world? 5 after Xavier left, my heart suddenly felt as if it had just been hollowed out as I stared at the empty house. I had loved him for 10 years, but in the end, it was all just a dream. Those 3 years of marriage came to nothing other than the baby in my womb. He did not leave anything behind. While I was helping with the packing, I secretly kept a white shirt that he had worn before. It was not so that I would remember him, but as a constant reminder to myself of how foolish I had been to have loved him all these years. At 8 o'clock in the evening, my best friend, Cecilia Quinn, called me and asked if I had divorced Jalen. "How did you know that?" I asked. I had planned to tell her and my parents tomorrow after I had obtained the divorce certificate and decided whether or not to keep the baby. However, I was surprised that she found out about it so soon. It was unlikely that Jalen had told her since they hardly knew one another. Besides, he should have been with Simone Quigley the whole time after he had left the house. Also, he probably would not have told our families about the divorce before I did. "So, you really are divorced?" Cecilia sneered on the other end of the line before continuing. "But I'm not the only one who knows about it. I reckon anyone who knows the 3 of you is probably aware of it now." The 3 of us. I knew she could only mean Jalen, me, and the other woman. "What do you mean?" I asked. "Go on Twitter and see for yourself. As soon as you got divorced, she's marked her territory." I lowered my phone and activated the speaker mode. Then I opened Twitter. Sure enough, Simone's name was on the trending list. The thread came from her tweet, which read, "You are finally mine." The image that accompanied it was a flower bouquet. The overall composition of the photo was very ingenious. It consisted of a table by the window of a high-end restaurant. The flowers were placed on it, and her hand, which was wearing an exquisite bracelet, was making the sign of a heart. If I was not mistaken, the exquisite bracelet she was wearing was the limited edition pink diamond bracelet I wanted. It was just released on pre-sale a week ago. There were only 3 pieces in the entire world, 2 of which had been reserved, and the final one would be auctioned off. At that time, I was reading a fashion magazine when Jalen saw me staring at it and asked, "Do you like it?" "I quite like it, but it's not easy to buy something like that," I replied. I had never asked Jalen to buy me anything before. I accepted anything he got me on any special occasion. Of course, I would get him special gifts as well. The clothes he was wearing, as well as the TIs, watches, and so on, were basically things I had bought for him. Perhaps I liked the bracelet too much, so I casually answered his question honestly. However, as I did not want to trouble him, I added, But liking it doesn't mean I must have it. I have plenty of these things. So it's fine if I don't have this particular one, as long as you want it. It's not a difficult matter. His words made me happy for several days. The anniversary was just a few days away, and I was looking forward to him winning the auction and gifting me the bracelet on our 3rd wedding anniversary. Once there was an expectation, the disappointment would be 10,000 times more painful when the expectation was not met. For instance, at this moment, my heart, which had just calmed down, was overwhelmed with emotions again as I looked at the exquisite bracelet on the slender wrist. When I received the bracelet from Xavier in the afternoon, I thought Jalen had not won the auction, so I did not feel too disappointed. It felt very different now that I was seeing the pink diamond bracelet on Simone's wrist. The person in the reflection of the glass window is that jerk, Jalen, right? Cecilia's words pulled me back to reality, and I looked at the screen again. Sure enough, there was a faintly visible figure in the reflection on the glass window. Others might not be able to see who was reflected on the glass window. However, there was no way that I, who had loved him for 10 years, and Cecilia, who had known him for 15 years, could not recognize him. Yes, it's him! He truly could not wait to be with her. He had already gone to see her to celebrate even before we received our divorce certificate. 6-1's a scum, and the other's a wench. Aren't they afraid of retribution? On the other end of the phone, Cecilia cursed through gritted teeth. Simone, that pretentious bitch. Since she dared to come back, I'll give her a hard time. Don't do that. CC, I said, with Jalen openly backing Simone at present and the Luxley family not standing in her way. I could not compete with her at all. I did not want Cecilia to offend Jalen because of me, so I said, forget it. I've given up. I'm exhausted after years of competing with her. Before I had it, I wanted to try and see if a forced relationship would bring me happiness. Now that I've tried it, I find it too unacceptable and no longer desire it. Even if he returned to me right now, I wouldn't want it anymore. This time, I truly did not want anything. Cecilia sounded somewhat relieved after hearing what I said. I told you long ago that it's not worth sacrificing yourself for such a jerk. You've wasted 3 years of your youth for nothing. Forget it. Let's stop talking about this. It's good that you've finally seen the light. Cecilia let out a sigh before continuing. If I didn't have a dinner party tonight, I'd really like to fly to you from Hong Kong now. It's okay. I'm doing pretty well now. I lifted my head, glanced at the empty house, and said with feigned nonchalance, it's good that he left, so I don't have to think about when he will leave all the time. My tears began to fall again after I said that. For the last 2 years, Jalen would get off work an hour earlier today, go to the florist to buy a flower bouquet or prepare an anniversary gift, and then accompany me to have a nice meal, watch a movie, or build Lego. But now, don't be sad. There are plenty of men in this world, with so many people liking you. Wouldn't picking someone at random be better than Jalen? Cecilia said comfortingly, not wanting my best friend to worry about me. I wiped my tears and replied, yes, indeed. You're right. Don't worry, I'm fine. Really? All right then, I'll go drink with Mr. Zeller first. You must tell me if you need anything. Wait for me to come back. Okay? Okay, got it. Go ahead. Don't drink too much. My best friend was well known in the industry for being a workaholic. She would accept any job and was not picky about it. She rose from obscurity to stardom on her own. I greatly admired her, and I was glad to have a best friend like her. Ah, by the way, I think you don't know yet, but Simone is among the guests for the next episode of Guest Together. Cecilia's words made me freeze momentarily, and it took me a while to ask, really? I did not wish to go on any show with Simone, but I was a regular guest on this particular one and had signed a contract, so it was not easy to terminate it. But don't worry, the television crew also invited me, and I happened to be free this time. So, don't worry. With me, Cecilia Quinn. There. I'll never let anyone bully you. Her words warmed my heart and made me feel less anxious than before. I'm glad I have you, CC. I said gratefully. Glad you know that. I'm hanging up now. They're calling me. Wait for me to go back to find you. Take care of yourself at home. If you're upset, why don't I call Spencer and the others and get them to keep you company? No, I want to be alone, I replied.